Morning, gang.
Morning, Ken.
How are ya?
Fantastic.
Good to see you guys. All healed up?
Yeah, and then I twisted my ankle like
Oh my
Mark
gosh.
yesterday a little bit. But yeah, it's brutal.
He got attacked by a wasp. One or two?
Two.
Two
One
on.
in the lip,
Wi-Fi gift. It's
And
a
one in the head.
AW Sunrise and then Boat for
and I
Ages.
swelled up like a balloon.
Yeah. I actually was riding my motorcycle once, and a bee got inside of my helmet and was stinging my face. Oh my goodness. I mean, we're having problems. It was crazy. Morning. How are you? Hey, girl.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see
Welcome
you.
To you. I'm so glad to see you. You make me happy.
Hey. So this morning, Kayla's going to start us, and we're gonna be talking about listings. So let me. Oh, are they both? How come? There we go.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
So basically, I'm just going to start walking everybody through how to pull tax records to get some of the information for your listing, and then how to actually put it into MLS. And Ken's going to help me out with explaining some of your different options when you're doing that. So first, for tax records, when you're logged into the MetroList dashboard, it's super simple. You're just going to go and click tax at the top on the bar. And then this page is going to come up. One random note is if anyone's using Chrome, they've changed their rules on running Flash Player. So your settings probably need to be changed because it'll just pop up like you don't have Flash and you have to change it to Ask each time. I just saw an article about that the other day and I fixed two people's computers because of it.
So you have to change it to say Ask each time?
It'll tell you, like, it'll pop up and just say, your computer doesn't run Flash, click here to download. When you click to download, it says your computer's blocked this plugin. And then you click on that, and then you just toggle it to Ask first. Because they're actually phasing out Flash by the end of 2020 on Google Chrome. So they're changing all their settings now. But anyway,
Yeah.
But
What
I
it means
had
is you got to go through some things.
I had to do that, but I
Yeah.
whatever Flash and
so anyhow, once that's handled, then this page is going to come up. And you just type in your property address and search. And then you'll find your tax record. And when you go to download it, you just click print. And then you select the quick section. And then that'll just download a PDF. You can print it, have it handy when you're doing your MLS listing input. Anyone have questions about that?
I have a question because I've looked up tax records many times, and then it'll say like that it was entered as of the date that they listed the house. So who's going through and doing that?
MLS is sending the data.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll kind of be getting to some of that. That's why it's so important that this is the data then that everybody pulls for when was it listed, how much was it listed, what did it sell for, all of those things that we get through Zillow and
Right.
Redfin and all of those, that's all being taken off of this.
Okay, I was just wondering because it's like it looks like maybe Aiden or somebody just updating it and changing the square footage or stuff of that nature. So
That's something to think about if you're taking a listing that's about to cancel with someone else and it's currently active on MLS, because it'll show, like, the top will be per MLS, so it'll be whatever the agent entered in.
Okay.
So if it's not on the market, it'll be tax record, but if it is on the market, then it's going to be whatever the agent has on their listing. So make sure that you scroll down and actually read
what
the
actual
details.
square footage is.
Mhm.
Okay. Good to know.
Yep. Alrighty. So then creating a listing in MetroList, you'd be from your same homepage and you'd click listings up at that same top bar and then enter new listing. And then this is where you're going to use some of the data from your tax record. You'll use it to put in the county, the APN number, and then you're just going to put in your address. That's pretty easy.
Now, I've seen APNs done in different formats.
They're different
Do
per,
we do
per
the
county.
ones? Do we do the one that has the? Is it best to put the most digits in?
The
Or
one that
least?
we just saw on the tax records, that's the one that we're going to be using.
The differences in digits you might be thinking of is per county. Some counties have a different amount of digits, and so when you select your county first, it's going to give you a box that's formatted to take the right amount of numbers.
Okay. 'Cause I've
Typically,
seen-
it's the very last numbers. Some will have 3, some will have 4,
Right.
but it's the last numbers on the parcel number.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because I've looked down at MLS and I might look at the tax records and one was missing those last three zeros at the end, for example.
Mhm.
And then I went to the county and the county only wanted the one with the 3 zeros or the one without the zeros, and it was a little confusing at times.
Typically,
I wish everyone was consistent.
Yeah.
Just
typically, if numbers are missing at the end,
right.
putting in zeros will be the safest way to go. Typically.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then after you have all of that squared away, another weird thing is under street name, you only put the name of the street. You have to put the suffix separate, otherwise it messes up how it goes in there. But it doesn't really specify that because suffix isn't a mandatory field, so just make sure you put it in that way. And then you click
The
place.
numbered streets can get a little weird
I think it's called that
sometimes.
street name
So.
Chippewampin. No, that's
No
not
one would ever know the difference if I did.
Chippewampin. I know exactly where that's at.
That's my house. I just did that for
Oh,
the
yeah.
example. So yeah, then after you fill all that out, you'd click place pin on map, and this is just the general map here, but it would come up with like almost like a Google map view of where the home is with a little pin on it. So you just want to verify that that's in the right place. If it's wrong, it could mean that you accidentally typed in the wrong APN number or that you need to recheck your details. So just make sure that appears correct, and then it'll take you to the main page. And this is where you're going to start entering in all of your information. Property subtype up here is just going to be like single family, multifamily, whatever type of home it is there. Then you'll enter in your address. There's some optional fields like direction. We'll put in all the same fields that we did in tax records: APN, street name, suffix, zip code. You put your cross street in, and then your office ID and agent ID should auto-populate, but just double check that that's correct. And then if there's any special listing conditions, that's where you'd note it here. Like if it's an auction or notice of default, real estate owned, short sale, anything can be noted here. Under your service level, it's going to be E.
E.
E for
It's exclusive, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exclusive listing.
Yep.
In other words, what that is saying is that the listing is not being shared with another entity or anything like that. It's an exclusive agency, which means you are the only person that is hired to market the property for these people.
Right, we do what, exclusive right to sell. Instead of the,
Correct.
That's going to be
Technical term,
another
yeah.
field in this too,
Okay.
but that's also have to note it in the service level.
Yeah. So we're not taking a listing, but you can sell it for sale by owner as well. No, we're not doing that.
Alrighty, and then we'll put in our listing price, and then for listing period, whoops, Ken had gone over this a little bit last time. Sorry for the screen issue. This is going to be, what were you mentioning, Ken, before on the listing agreement when it could be 3 days after the last signature? Should we reiterate that so people know?
Very good. Yes. Here's the thing. When does the listing period start? Well, it can start whenever we want it to, as long as we've specified it. But one of the things that we can get into trouble with the Metro list, and we'll talk a little bit further about that, we can get into trouble if we have entered it more than 3 days after the start date that we enter. So we can enter a start date, but we go, well, yeah, but I didn't get my signatures until 3 days after that start date. Well, then what I need to do is I need to enter the signature date, whichever is the later of the two, because otherwise I could be getting a fine from MetroList. And MetroList says, as long as you get it entered within 3 days, and they're actually business days, okay? So if I take a listing on Friday, when do I need to have that listing completely entered in?
Wednesday.
So we would have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Now, if you can do it over the weekend, get it done, okay? If you can get it done on Monday or Tuesday, get it done. But I've got the leniency if I took the listing on Friday. I've got that leniency. And then what if Monday is Labor Day?
yeah, another
Could go
day.
all the way to Thursday. Could. Again, we encourage you to
Get
get
done
it
as soon as
entered in as
possible.
soon as possible. But sometimes we've got these problems. We've got the listing all filled out, and the wife all of a sudden had to run wherever the kids are, and she's not going to be back, and she doesn't sign the document until Friday afternoon. Well, that is the start date because she was the last signature. And then that should be the date that I enter in because I don't want it to show that I entered it in more than 3 days, 3 business days after the final signature. Okay? So I can adjust the start date to the signature date or the contract date, whichever is the later. Okay?
Alrighty. Anybody have any questions about anything on this first page? Good? Okay. All right, so next is the commission area. So under commission type, in most cases it's going to be percentage of sale. Occasionally if you have a mobile home or something, you may do a dollar amount.
Why would we do a dollar amount with a mobile home?
Because 1% or 2% is not very much.
It's not, unfortunately. And here's the thing, we want you to be compensated fairly for the amount of time, and you're going to put how much time into a mobile home?
More than you would.
Pretty much the same or more than you would for a $350,000 residential property. So to charge a fee is reasonable if it works for the client, because we operate with our Y4C2Ts, our culture, which is what? Win-win. So what's a win for my client? What's a win for us? And find something. And so sometimes it will be a dollar amount. Okay.
Question for you. Is there a way to find out what, like the listing side, if you represent buyers, what the average is that people charge on commission? Because I know we say it's 2.5%, 3%, but I don't know where it is on the MLS.
There is no average because we have to watch. We have to be very, very careful because there is a terminology, price fixing, and we're not. In other words, how much you charge, how much you charge, how much. Okay, let's agree that we're going to. That's price fixing, and that's violating a federal law. So we don't want to do that. So what I need to say is, in the marketplace, if I charge more than what most agents are charging, is that smart?
No, you're probably not going to get a lot of business.
But what if I've got a track record that says that I typically get more for my clients than the majority of other agents do? Am I bringing value to the table?
Yes.
So if I can make a good argument and the client agrees with it, is there anything wrong with me charging more commission than most other people?
No.
Because that would be a win-win, wouldn't it? Now, that might be kind of hard because I've got somebody else that says, hey, I charge less than everybody else, but I do the same work. I'm a real estate agent. If you list with me, you're going to save money. Are people going to look at that and go, that makes sense? So somewhere between those two, I've got to figure out what makes the best sense for me and my business model. I want to bring value to the table so that people say, yeah, whatever you're charging, I'm willing to go along with that. Okay, Keller Williams has said a 4% commission is the least that we want you charging unless you say, hey, I've got an unusual situation and I need to do a little bit different. And what we say is that we pay a minimum of 2.5%. And the reason is because what we have seen throughout the marketplace is 2.5% seems to be about the average. And so if we are giving less than the average to an agent bringing a buyer, what is that going to subconsciously tell that agent?
Seller's cheap, you're cheap.
This may not be the one that I want to show my client. That's kind of the
Money.
hidden message. Yeah, that's kind of the hidden message because, I can show my client this one over here. They're paying 2.5. You're only paying 1. Give me a break. I'm going to show them all these other ones. Then I'll show yours if we can't find something. And so we could actually be doing our seller a disservice if we were below what the norm seems to be on commissions. Okay? Now, we say if you want to charge 4% and you only take 1.5%, that's your choice. Again, I always go back to what is all of my work worth? If should I go work at McDonald's or should I sell real estate for 0.5%? I need to. What value do I bring to the table, and what can I sell? But every now and then we've got those unique situations. Hey, this client has bought 5 properties from me, and this is their parents' house, and we get to that place where we go, yeah, I want to just do it for 1%. Well, talk to us, and most of the time, if it makes good sense, we go, sure, that's your call. That's your money, and we let you do that because you are running your business, and we're partnering with you to help you run a good business. We're just trying to make sure that you get fairly compensated. Okay?
All right, awesome. So next, who understands what variable rate is? Awesome.
You can't say.
Okay, so
Beth is way too smart.
So variable rate refers to if your commission is subject to change or not. So if you do not disclose this and then you change your commission after the fact, you're subject to a fine with
Somebody
Metro
tell me, what does she say? Your commission is subject to change. What does she mean?
The buyer side?
Seller's side. Variable is talking about seller's side. So where would your commission be subject to change?
You don't get them as much money?
I've already had a conversation with my seller, and I've told my seller, if this happens or that doesn't happen, I will adjust my commission to make it up for you. So, one of the things that I've always said, if I have a buyer come to me within the first 30 days of your listing, I will cut my commission in by 1/2 of a point. So instead of 3%, instead of 2.5%, I will only charge you 2.5 or 2.
So that's when you represent both sides?
That would be when I would be representing both sides. So when I am involved as the buyer's agent and the seller's agent, my commission is going to be adjustable. What we're telling other agents then, by putting variable, hey, if Ken is one of the ones that has a buyer, there's a good chance that he's reduced his commission. Therefore, if we're working, this is another agent talking, if we're working with a buyer and we see that one of the offers has come in by the listing agent, we may want to make our offer a little bit higher because he's probably cutting his commissions down. Okay?
Alrighty. And then next we're going to do showing instructions. So you can mark here up to 5. I think I accidentally covered that up with the circle. Yes, so you could do you can do vacant with lockbox, text showing contact, anything like that, go directly. And then primary show type, this would be if there is a contact, like if you want them to call the agent or the owner or the tenant, you can note that there and then you can add their information. And
What
you
is
can
the
do a
best thing to
secondary.
do for showings? What's the best thing to check?
Contact agent.
Contact agent. Because agents are always available, aren't they?
We live with our phones.
Do we answer them? Do we respond? Do all agents? How many of you have tried to get in touch with an agent? Yeah. Hello. Yeah. If they don't know my number, if they don't. And so
Pick the phone all day.
one of the things, yeah, but a lot of agents don't.
Oh, really?
And so one of the things that we may want to say is, what is going to make the property most accessible? I always recommend talking to the client and saying, if you get a call or if you're not home, we will allow the agent to use the lockbox. Now, we want to make sure that the property is protected and safe and all of that. But the more access that the other agents have to my client's property, the better chance we'll have more showings than if they have to get in touch with me and then I have to schedule it and then I go and show it. Now, in our high-end properties, typically what we see is agents will do the listing agent on many high-end properties. The listing agent has to be present when it's shown. Okay? I understand that. But would you agree that the easier access that another agent and that a buyer has to the property, probably the more showings are going to take place? Would that be a fair statement? So anything that we can do, but of course that's going to be a conversation with our sellers and making sure that they're comfortable with it. A lot of sellers go, I don't want anybody in this house unless you are here. Oh my goodness, the property's up in wherever, and that's only about a 45-minute drive for me, and So those are the kinds of things that we have to figure out. We have to discuss with our clients. We have to have an agreement, and then we enter in what it is. Okay.
Alrighty, then next, if there's a tenant, you can mark that. If you know the current rent, you can add that here so someone can see what potential value it can be. Then there is square footage, bedrooms and bathrooms, and then there's the source of that information. And so Ken and I were actually just talking about this recently. What do you do if there is a client that has an added-on bonus room, but it's not in the tax records?
You put the square footage from the tax records.
You can do that,
And
or
then say
Or
there's-
Beth, what else can we do?
Well, sometimes there's a difference between like an appraisal report. sometimes they'll factor in the square footage that hasn't quite made it to the tax record. So you could point to the appraisal.
Yeah.
So appraiser, and who else can we say?
Per seller.
For seller, we can. Now we want to be careful because sometimes what agents have done is the agent has said something, and then the seller goes, yeah, okay. And so they put down per seller, but the seller goes, yeah, but my agent told me that, and I just agreed. So we need to be careful. We need to be careful. But if we have a source, the seller says, no, when we did this, I know that there was some stuff, it's been so many years ago, I don't remember exactly where the document is, but I remember we did that, and it's more than what the tax records show, and I know that it's, 1973 square feet. I know that. Okay, well, I'll put 1973 because I had the conversation with my seller, and it's going to be per seller. Okay?
Alrighty. Okay, and then this is just that same field. We're just going back down. Same with lot size source.
Now, one of the things that I have seen a lot of, and this is an important part, make sure that you put acres in there because it's better to have, bless you, it's better to have 0.233 acre than however many square feet. What is that? 16,700. How many people can, in their mind, translate that into, well, a quarter acre? Yeah, I've got a quarter acre. I can understand that. Or maybe 1/16 of an acre. Yeah, I kind of have a feel for that. So I would say be careful. Check it before you shut everything down and submit it. Check and make sure that it's acres. How many acres, not how many square feet.
And Google will be your best friend because tax records show square feet, so you have to convert it.
Yeah. Beth?
Does any of this stuff like pre-populate when you put in the APN?
It will, but you want to, just because it's pre-populated and gotten something, that's how a lot of people get the square feet in there as opposed to square acre, how many acres. So, yeah.
Alrighty, and then next is just the schools, which you can find the school district on the tax records.
Now, here's a good thing, too, on schools. Go check out some of the listings in the area, and if you've got a couple of other listings in the area and you see that the schools are the same, you can figure that that's what you can put in if they're within a block or so.
And this helps you a little bit too. Like it won't let you choose from any school district. It's only surrounding areas. So if you have a guess, this will kind of
Sacramento
help you.
can't pull Roseville.
Yeah. Alrighty. And then you can go to a property subtype description. So this is if it's a modular home, if it's attached, detached,
What's an
townhouse.
attached home? What's an attached home?
Like a manufactured home that got attached to the lot.
No.
And a house with common walls.
Aha. So like sometimes in some neighborhoods, haven't we seen where it's actually a duplex and it goes around the corner? But each one is a separate residence with a separate tax lot.
It's a common wall.
Okay, so that would be an attached. Yeah.
That's a halfplex.
It would be a duplex, but it's really single family, and it is.
So I thought halfplex each have their own,
Mhm.
but duplex is one.
Halfplex, duplex, and attached can all be very similar. If I'm selling a single-family residence that's connected by one wall, I'm
That's
probably
attached.
going to want attached because it's a little bit more exclusive looking.
Right.
Okay?
Alright. Then another part we didn't cover yet is that if it's a brand new home and you want to add in the model name and builder, construction start and end dates, you can add that here.
Especially if it's a high-end subdivision or something like that, putting the name of the subdivision in or the builder's name sometimes, that can be very helpful.
Does that happen often? Because I don't see a lot of that on the new builds. Like they list the builder's name. It'd be kind of nice because when I do open houses, I get,
Yeah.
who's the builder? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
It's optional, so not everyone has to do it, but it's nice if you ever did it. It'd be nice for you to do it.
It will draw more attention.
Right.
The more information that you have, the more attention you're going to get from prospective buyers.
Alright. Okay, and then there's site description, so this can let you know like what style of a home it is. And then the construction, so is it wood, is it slab, what is it? So
rammed earth with straw.
Strand earth.
Straw wood.
Straw
like
and
little
wood.
pigs.
Straw is, yeah. Rammed earth, I think, is when instead of a concrete foundation, they have compressed the ground.
Oh, really?
They actually bring a compressor that pounds the ground. I don't, again, everything is subject to permit, and the county probably won't allow some of these here locally, but when you get up into the foothills and things like that, you do find that they're a little bit more creative. So,
Very creative.
very, yes.
Then you have your foundation, just you could put if it's raised or slab or anything like that. Let's see.
Now, if you don't know, don't put something in. Okay, so that would
Don't assume.
don't assume. Thank you. But if you do know, or the client is telling you. Now, here's one thing that I would like to encourage you. Did you know that there are MetroList entry forms that are available for entering your listing in? Now, the problem is then you're filling out this long form. What's the good thing? The good thing is that your client signs it. By your client signing that form, they are acknowledging, yes, I agree with everything that you are now going to put into MetroList. Here's what I would recommend if you don't use that form. You have your client read what you have turned into MetroList after you print the page out, and you take it to your client, and you have your client initial at the bottom, which is the same thing as what those forms would be saying. Hey, I, the seller, have seen it, I acknowledge it, I agree with it, here's my initials, okay? And then that would be uploaded to SkySlope. That way, if there is ever a question, and trust me, we've had them, haven't we, Beth? We've had them where all of a sudden, here's something on the listing, and the client goes, I don't know anything about that. My agent did that. I don't remember that. And the agent is saying, no, wait a minute. We talked about it. I got the information from you. You're the one that told me that. And you see, if we've got the initials either on the form, the MetroList form that is filled out, or after we've printed out the whole page, the client signs off on the bottom. Now we can say, well, wait a minute. Why did you sign this if you're telling me you didn't agree with it? Okay? It's protection for you.
All right. So then next you can note if it's in a cul-de-sac, gated community, dead end, corner lot, anything like that. And then you can note the type of garage, if any.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have the clients fill it out. It gives you more time to talk with them, and then,
Absolutely.
I mean, we see houses all day long. It's like you can't remember when you leave 3 hours later, oh, did it have this?
Do you recommend doing a partial save and printing that prior to posting it, or just posting it, putting it live, and then having them sign it?
I always recommend getting the client's buy-in as much as possible. If you go now, here's how I've always done it. I've worked with all of this stuff, so a lot of it is pretty much embedded in my head. But I always go with a yellow pad, and I'm writing things down, and I'm asking questions, and I know what's going to be filled out. Now, if you were to just take a blank one of these, because you can print these pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at, she's already done it for you. You can print these pages, and you can fill that information out, or you can take the MetroList form, and you can fill it out when you're doing your what? Agent, A-V-I-D, agent, visual inspection disclosure. Do I need to do an AVID? I have to. Why not be doing all of that as I'm gathering the information about what's going to be entered into the MLS? I've got all of that, and we're doing it right now. Exactly. And that way it's my eyes. Hello. Gosh, this is a good agent. But you see, that way I'm doing these things. I have seen, and now if my client says, oh no, we've got a raised foundation, I'm walking around and that's concrete. Why do you say it's a raised foundation? We have a discussion. I walk outside and I say, now a raised foundation, you would have vents. You don't have any vents. Where did you hear this? Well, and all of a sudden we realize, no, my client would have told me raised foundation and I wouldn't have paid attention. I would have put raised foundation, that's wrong. So,
And tax records generally have the foundation on it too.
I do.
All right, and then if there's any recreational parking, like RV access, boat storage, anything like that, you can note that.
And look at where it says possible. if there is a wide enough space and there's no driveway, but on the side of the house, and even especially if it's on the side where the garage is, should we put RV possible? Is that going to be attractive to some buyers?
Yes.
Because that could be a boat, that could be a RV, carport, whatever. Yes. So look at those things, because a lot of times, if there is no RV space, a lot of agents won't put anything there. And so a buyer who's looking for something won't even look at this one. Yeah, Beth?
Does it have to be, so unless it's like paved and has a driveway, you put RV possible, you wouldn't put like RV access or RV storage?
The only time that you would, good question, because the only time that you really would want to put RV access is if there's the gate access. If there's no gate, if it's just a fence and there's no paving or anything like that, but it is wide enough, then we would go possible.
So if you have like the big gate, but it's not like paved or a special driveway for it?
If you've got the gate and it's a full-size gate where somebody could drive up on the lawn, I actually had one of those.
Yeah.
And after spinning the wheels on the grass a few times, I put the concrete in. But yeah, that was RV access because people could put an RV in there.
Okay.
It was impractical, but yes, because it had the gate, it was RV access, not possible.
Ken, wouldn't you have to be careful too of CCNRs?
Thank you. Yes. And so if I see an RV gate, but I know it's an HOA, I want to find out, because some of them, yeah.
I was just thinking if you have an area, that's grassy next to the garage, it's like an RV could be there.
Mm-hmm.
CCNRs may say no.
And that's where we want to find out. And so our client is going to be able to tell us about an HOA. Why? Because typically there's fees, right? So if there are HOA fees if our client says, well, I'm not sure, then we want to make sure that we pull a copy of the HOA. We want to see what it says. And a lot of times the HOA, if they allow RVs, they've got to be set back. There's got to be some kind of a cover or something like that. So we just want to make sure that we're not saying that there's something possible that isn't possible. Good point. Yeah, Beth.
What about if like the CCNR say like you can't do something, but then there's no HOA to actually like enforce the CCNR, so it's kind of just like a free for all?
And that's a good point, because a lot of times when a lot of subdivisions were built out, the builder had an HOA in place. But over time, none of the owners wanted to maintain the HOA, and there weren't any fees, and so nobody's going to be doing all this work for nothing, and so it falls apart. So the HOA is basically dead, but it did say certain things. And again, I can relate to this because my son had one of those portable basketball hoops in the road, and a guy came and he was yelling, hey, you got to get that off the street. The HOA doesn't allow it. Well, the HOA was dead. It was non-existent. Nobody could enforce it. So we had a big old in the street. That was fun. And my son went on to be become most valuable player. So.
Exactly. Paid off.
Yeah. But those are the kinds of things that can really become problems. And so you want to check into it. And it's always best to go conservative on what you're putting in the MLS than to be aggressive and then get yourself or get your client in trouble. So if there is a question, best to go conservative. Okay.
So are there sometimes discrepancies in tax records though too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you can't always just base off of tax
That's why
records.
what we're saying is as per tax records, as per records.
Okay.
Yeah, we're always deferring. I'm not the expert because I am not the county and I'm not the law. I'm simply deferring to where we got the information, and that's what we're putting on the MLS, okay, as per records that I saw. I saw this tax record. Here's what it said. I'm just entering that in. That's all I saw. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So this just elaborates on the garage portion of it. You can put number of garage spaces here or carport spaces. And then it goes 2 stories. So if it's a 1-story or a 2-story, you note that here. And then you can further describe that. It's optional. Then room descriptions, you can do up to 5 of these entries, and it just kind of gives you a chance to elaborate on what the rooms are. You could say game room, dining room, bonus room, dinner, study, attic, loft,
Now, a wine refrigerator under the counter, just so you know, that is not a wine cellar.
My house
Don't
is.
exaggerate. Don't exaggerate. Some people do. So just be careful on things like that.
And then you can also go through the dining description where it doesn't have a breakfast nook, a family and dining room combo, a formal area. There's kitchen description. All of these it tells you how many you can put in.
And the
of
dumb
each
waiter
thing.
is not the son.
That's insulting.
Yeah.
Slow waiter,
Yeah.
like unmotivated.
All right, and then kitchen appliances. You can note the types of appliances you have here. Master bedroom, if there's a walk-in closet or outside access, anything special, you can note that there.
Can you clarify range and oven?
As far as
Oven is freestanding, range is built into the countertop.
Range
Is
is
that what
built
you're-
in, range is freestanding on the corner.
does
So there's
does it
been
have
questions on
have feet that it is sitting on, or is it sitting on the cabinet counter? Sitting on the cabinet counter is a slide-in. It is not freestanding. Does that mean it stays or it goes?
Space.
Is that an oven?
The range
Does it
is-
have an oven? Could
There's built-in ovens.
there are built-in ovens?
That's
Mhm.
exactly what I want
Yeah.
deciphered here.
So, if it has feet and it is sitting on the floor in the cabinet line, that is a freestanding. Now, how many people are going to take it with them?
Very few.
Check the box.
Very few.
Bingo. Is it staying or is it going? If it's freestanding, we should
Just
say
disclose.
one way or the other. I always recommend that the client leave it. That's the best, because otherwise it becomes a point of contention. So, the buyer expects a stove. Give them the stove. You guys, you deserve a new one anyway.
So a freestanding range is not the same as a freestanding oven.
The range, it's going to be interpreted many times as containing both because of the size of it.
Right.
Okay? So freestanding typically has both the range top
Right.
and the oven underneath the range. The way that spells it out, it could be a little bit confusing.
Right.
So again, defer to the more conservative. Freestanding range, yes, that means what we've got. Okay?
And the oven is just the oven.
Typically, when it talks about oven, it's going to be the built-in oven that you see, the two ovens up top and bottom. Yeah.
Alrighty, and then this is going to be if there's any details specifically we can note in the bathroom, like if there's a window, if there's a tub with jets, a tub with a shower over, and you can do up to 4 of those.
Now, I turned the water on and it wasn't going very fast, so should I put down low flow? Just saying. Just saying.
Are you gonna call the plumber next?
Hello. But if my client says, hey, we remodeled the bathroom, okay, that's mandatory now for any remodels that you pull permits, and so it would be low flow. So if they've done remodeling, and I'm going to ask them, are these low flow? Because is low flow going to it's becoming more and more of an issue on the cost of the utilities. So having low flow is going to be a positive thing. So I'll probably ask them, hey, it looks like you guys remodeled your bathroom, did you? It looks like these are low flow, are they? If they say, we don't know, I'm not going to make the assumption, okay? But if they go, oh yeah, we had to do that, that was required, great, put it in. Okay?
All right, and then the laundry description. So this is where you can note, is it just a hookup? What type of hookup is it? And where is it?
Now, if you've got gas and you have 220 hookup,
Check.
and it's been used with gas, and the 220 is wired, but it's got the full plate over it because that plug hasn't been installed, you still would check the 220.
If the client says, yes, it's 220, we bought the house brand new, and that was one of the things that we had them do, so yes, it's 220 ready.
Even though the plug isn't there. It's just
Even
got
though
a
the
plate.
plug isn't there, it does have
Right.
220 available. Yeah.
And you can check other remarks too in that area, so you can elaborate on whatever you're putting.
220 wired, but no plug installed, and that would just be your remark. Yeah.
All right, then we would note the floor coverings. That one's pretty straightforward. The type of air and heat. And then if there are any energy features, like dual pane windows, solar, anything like that, ceiling fans, you can note that all there. And then it's mandatory to add number of fireplaces. And if you click a number in there and you put 1, it's going to pop up another field that says where are they. So you'll have to note that too. Security features, if there's alarms, gates, security systems, bars on windows, anything like that, you can add that in. All right, and then this is where you put if it's remodeled or updated. You can put unknown if you don't know. But if you do click that it has been updated, you can note when all of those updates and where they were. Disability features.
I would say on the AC thing, it's like swamp coolers look a lot like AC, so if you do mobile homes or houses out in the hills, you want to check for sure because that's a bad one.
Ask. Always ask.
It's just an air conditioner because you'll have like a thermostat, so it looks like it when you walk through the house, but it's a swamp cooler on the outside. So big difference.
Yeah,
Randy,
it's an expensive one. All right, and then disability features, if there's anything that's built into the home like ramps or bars or anything like that, you can note that here. Exterior, oftentimes you could find this in the tax records, sometimes it's not included, so just make sure that you know. Normally it's pretty easy to tell if it's stucco or wood or anything like that. Roof description, this is also in the tax records pretty often too, but that's another easy one to spot when you go to the home. Miscellaneous. So this is just anything like covered patios, spa or hot tubs, saunas, extra features that could be in some homes that you can note here so people can see. And then there's the pool section. If you check yes, it'll ask if it's on site or if it's in like an association, like if you have a clubhouse or something. There's that. Other structures, if you have a guest house or a gazebo, second garage that's not connected, anything like that. And improvements. This refers to if the street has been like improved or new street lights, things like that. So you can either put none, or if you know for a fact that something's been changed, you can add that.
And you can look on Google Earth and see if you don't know if it has lights or curbs or gutters.
Well, and you are also going to be out there for your agent visual inspection. So there you go.
All right, and then there's landscape. If there's anything like a dog run or a vinyl fence, sprinklers, anything like that, you can add that here. Site description, if it's on a big hill or if the lot's level, if there's lots of trees, if there's not very many trees, you can note anything like that here that would make it kind of stand out. And then road description. You can note if it's public maintained or if it's, out in a more rural area. If it's just like a dirt road, gravel road, you can note that here. Utilities, most of the ones around here are going to be all public, but if there is any other situations, then you can note that here. Domestic water, most of them are going to be meter on site, but if there is anything else, you can note it here. And then sewer. In and connected will probably be your most common thing, or septic.
Now, one of the things that we do have from time to time in Carmichael, parts of Sacramento, there are areas where they put the sewer in after the fact. They have septic systems. I got bit by one of these once. And the whole neighborhood, in and connected. Well, when the sewer line went in, and these people had been there, I don't remember, it was something like in the late 60s, early 70s that the sewer line came through, and they didn't make everybody connect. And so my listing was actually on a septic system, even though in the neighborhood they all had sewers, and it became a big problem. So especially on some of the older houses, just make sure, ask the question, okay? Because it does happen. There are a few neighborhoods, especially like in Carmichael and some of those areas, that were kind of filled in later on. The public the public utilities got to them after they were already built, and they didn't make it mandatory hookup because there was a big fee involved. And if you take a look, sometimes on the tax records, it will talk about that. And here was the other thing. They were paying a sewer fee, but they weren't hooked up.
Oh my God.
That was part of the rule. You had to still pay the fee, but they didn't have to pay the hookup fee.
Paid the 20 or 30
See?
grand.
Yeah.
Tie-in.
So just to be careful, it does happen. That's why you want to have good conversation with the client. How long? If they've lived there for a long time, you might want to check if it's in one of those neighborhoods. Okay.
All right. Irrigation water. Most of the time, this is going to be none unless you're out in like a rural area, and usually they would be able to tell you that. Restrictions, if it's like a 55 plus community or anything like that, you can note that here. Disclosures and reports. If you have any previous reports or disclosures on the home, you can note that you're including that and attach it to your listing.
Now let me ask you, does it make sense to attach it, or should we just keep silent about it? I mean, it's 3 years old. What should we do with it? What do you think?
Attach it.
Yeah, but there were some things in it that we don't like.
Full disclosure.
Yeah, better to be upfront with it.
Let me ask you, what are the chances of a problem that wasn't fixed getting discovered by the new buyer sometime?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Why not be upfront about it, get it out on the table? So any disclosures that we've got, let's make sure they're legitimate disclosures. Let's just upload them. And if there's any things that haven't been fixed, let's just have a very short description. Seller had this reviewed by a contractor. The contractor did not believe that it was necessary, and client has not done anything. Can we just put that in there? And you know, here's the contractor's name and phone number, or contractor's name and phone number will be provided if desired. Would that be a good disclosure to have uploaded and eliminate any potential problems? Because the other agent is already looking at it, the client's looking at it, they're looking at our pictures, we took some good pictures. They go, yeah, we want to go see that one. We're okay with it. But if they find it out after the fact, boy, then it could become contentious. Okay?
All right, and then next you would check if there are CC&Rs and HOA. And if you check either of those and select yes, it'll pop up another drop-down menu that shows what the details of those are.
What's the difference between CC&Rs and HOA? What's CC&R? Conditions and restrictions.
Doesn't every subdivision have CC&Rs basically?
Yes, thank you. Yes. So what is in them? What is in the CC&Rs? What can you do? What can't you do? What restrictions? And even though there isn't an HOA, the CC&Rs say you can do and you can't do certain things. Now here's the issue. Who's enforcing it? There may be nobody enforcing it, right? If there isn't an HOA, you have no enforcement. However, if somebody says, I want to park on the street, we've got an RV, can I park my RV on the street? The CC&Rs might say you can't, and there's enough original owners in the subdivision. Are they going to be fighting them if they park their RV out there?
Sure.
Good. So those are the kinds of things that we would want to be aware of. Okay. How do I get a copy of the CC&Rs? Beth?
Doesn't it, depending on your prelim, it should come linked to
Bingo. Order a prelim on the property, upload that when we go live. The more information we've got, that's going to make our listing stand out when an agent is looking for homes for their buyer, and they're going to see ours and they're going to see, wow, we've got everything here, and the client can look at all of it, and the client's going to say, I like this one. Okay? So yes, we can pre-open escrow and have a prelim and upload the prelim. Okay?
Alrighty, and then private association amenities. If there is an exercise room, common laundry area, barbecue, anything like that, you can note it. And then this is the rest of the HOA details, the name, HOA phone number. And then this is...
Should we measure the bedrooms?
No.
Why not?
Because if we're wrong, then we're liable on
go on the conservative side. So if it's 12 feet 3 inches, I'm not going to put 12.3, I'm just going to say 12. Okay? Anything wrong with that? I'm going to give, especially if we've got a big master, we've got a 14 by 18 master, would I want that in there? Or we've got a 16 by 24 master, would I want that in there? I think so.
I think that it helps.
Yeah.
Buyer.
I just want to make sure that I'm being honest with what I'm putting in there, right? Okay?
But it's better to put 12 feet rather than 12.3.
Correct.
Be more conservative. You're giving them extra. No one's going to complain about
Correct.
extra. Don't say 14 and it's 11.8.
And if it's truthful and I've got that filled out, again, this is going to stand out from all of the other listings that these agents and buyers are looking at because there's more information here. Okay?
All right, then bonds, assessments, and taxes. What do you put here? Unknown?
If we don't know if there are any, we can put unknown if we know for sure that there are none. But again, I want to defer to my client. Unless my client is going to take the responsibility for what's said, we're going to put unknown. Unknown is safer.
Okay. All right, existing financing. So this can often be found on tax records if the person who owns the home has a conventional loan or FHA, and then or treat as clear if they've paid it off completely. Terms. This is what you're willing to accept if someone makes you an offer. And so this just goes through all of the different.
What's a 1031 exchange subject to? What's that mean to a buyer?
Contingent about them selling another property.
Buying another.
Buying another property. In other words, if I, as a buyer, am looking at a house and it says subject to a 1031 exchange, that means I might not be able to close on time. And if I don't close on time, what happens to my rate lock? So if it is a 1031, if this is an investment property and the seller has not found the replacement property, that would be something. So if that's the case, I want to make sure that that's entered in there so that the buyer and the buyer's agent have an understanding of what's going on.
What is Nehemiah?
Nehemiah was a special financing that if you qualified for it, you could get it. It does have certain requirements. It is assumable, and so there are some things involved in it. If you don't know, don't check. Okay? But again, the a lot of times will have conditions, and they will have some of these things in there.
Alrighty, and then possession by recording an agreement. And then the type of listing is exclusive right. And you'd want to put your picture provided by, if you had a third-party photographer, you'd note that. If it was from the seller, you'd note that. If you took the picture, you would note that there, just so that way.
And I'm getting a bunch of pictures, but what I did was I just put a picture of the front of the subdivision in. Is that going to be acceptable? Or maybe say, sure. Maybe say, no. Sure. Maybe say, okay, what's the right answer? Must be a picture of the front of the property. That's MLS's minimum requirement, is a picture of the front of the property. Okay? Then we can go live. Then we've complied with their rules and their regulations. Just one picture of the front of the property. Another thing to be careful, because that's the minimum. That's the minimum. We have to have a picture of the front of the property when it goes live in MLS. Now, here's another thing that a lot of agents get in trouble with. My sign was already up, and I took a picture of the front. It's beautiful, and look at my sign is there with my contact information.
Blur it out.
Cannot have personal information that is visible or readable. So we just blur it out. Okay?
All right, and then these two things are basically, it's just giving permission for this to go other places on the internet. If you turn this off, it's not going to go to Zillow or things like that. So if you want your listing to be able to go to Realtor.com, Zillow, all those other places, you have to make sure this says yes.
I don't like the fact that they take my stuff and market it to other people and make money off of it, but by the same token, I know that if they're taking my information, it's getting out to a broader number of people that are going to see it and possibly be interested in it.
All right, property description. This is where you could put beautiful home in Sacramento, blah, 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 great countertops. That's where you put all that
And
stuff.
typically, that is what then goes out along with the pictures and the rest of the listing. So I do want to be creative, honest, but give a good verbal picture of the property here.
Advertisement.
Yes.
In the handbooks you all have in front of you, all these little blurbs underneath certain sections that say see MLS rules, X, Y, and Z, you have a table of contents in front of you and a manual that you can refer back to.
This is also on the MLS, so you can always see it electronically. But keep this in hand just so that if there's ever an issue or something, you can quickly look it up and see what the rules say.
All right then. Confidential agent remarks. If you had checked any boxes that said you were going to put anything in remarks, or you had something extra that wasn't covered that you wanted to say, that's where you would add it.
Or you want the agent to look at the attachments that you've uploaded, be sure and check out, or before you make offers, or we can even say, escrow has been pre-opened with. Now here's the thing, if we say that, we can say the title company, we can even say the escrow officer, but we can't give contact information. So there's no address and there's no phone number, because otherwise that is allowing marketing to go through. But if we say escrow's been pre-opened with Fidelity and Susan Smith is the escrow officer, that's fine. Okay?
All righty. And then
that's also where you would put if somebody needed time because they have children.
Yep.
You know, need 2 hours notice for showing because they have children, because you want to put in confidential, not
yeah.
Correct. Yes,
you don't want to let everybody in the world know that there's
very good.
a single mom with 2 kids there.
Yeah.
And then directions to the property. This is pretty straightforward. You could just Google Maps from the nearest freeway. And then when you're done filling all of this out, you can either save as incomplete and exit if you don't want to post it yet, or you can submit it, and that will make it go live.
And can I throw something in there? A little trick that I learned. You can accidentally submit it when you're not ready, and then you have a little bit of a trial to get it back. So what I learned from Kathy Govey was leave your service level blank. Make that your very last thing you put in, because it won't let you go live until you have everything in there.
That is a good idea. I mean, any of the mandatory fields or directions to property, even if you leave one mandatory field blank, then you can't accidentally submit.
Make it live when you weren't
It's kind of like when you're writing an email to somebody and you're kind of hot and you don't put their address in the top. We learned that the hard way, don't we? Oops!
So the next, and I apologize in advance, this was the hardest one to get screenshots for because I didn't actually have a live listing that I was looking at, so this isn't the best quality picture, but adding and editing photos on your adding and editing photos and open houses to your listings. So this is roughly what your menu is going to look like, and you'd click the listings section at the top. And then you'll see this menu come up where you can choose to add open house dates or upload and manage your pictures. And this is kind of nice to see here because it kind of reiterates what Ken said. You have to have at least one picture of the front of the house in order for you to be able to have your listing approved. Otherwise, you're subject to a fine from MetroList. And there is more comprehensive instruction on how to go navigate each part of this menu, but for the sake of my fake listing, this was as far as I could get. Any questions about anything, guys? What's up?
So like your first, you just have to have a picture of the front of the house, but it doesn't have to be like your first picture, right?
As long as you have, when you go live, one picture of the front of the house, that's all you have to have. Once you put all the pictures in, you don't have to have a picture of the front of the house as long as you've got a whole stack of pictures. The thing that you do have to be careful is the pictures that are not of the house but of the common areas or things like that. You have to be careful that it is truly related to the house and you didn't take a picture across the street of the big open area, the lake and stuff like that, you know. those who can't.
All right. And that basically cuts us out of time today.
Yeah, look at that.
Such a
So,
good
yeah.
class.
Good.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Kayla.
coming, guys. Thank you, Kevin.